All right,
I'll let
let
Mike
everybody in. You can admit all if you want.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Mike.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right, looks like we have our panel and the presenters in the room, so we'll get her going. So good morning. Welcome to the Town of Barnstable Formal Site Plan Review. Today is January 5th, 2023. This meeting is being recorded and will be televised on Channel 18. Most instances, this is the first time the general public gets the chance to see the project that gets to move forward to other boards for approval. So this meeting will be televised for that purpose. The purpose of site plan review is to ensure that all development activities regulated by the town are completed in accordance to federal, state, and local regulations. To that end, this meeting brings all the town regulatory agencies together in one place, so you do not have to go from department to department in order to try to understand what's required of you to obtain a permit. The way the process is going to work is Maggie will read a case into the record. The applicant will then have an opportunity to give their presentation to the board. From there, I'll ask staff to comment and ask questions of the applicant. And again, most of these applicants have gone through informal meetings, some multiple times. So a lot of the questions have been vetted before this point. It would be helpful if you could just mute your microphone when it's when you're not speaking, and then state your name when it is your turn to speak. Maggie will be taking notes of these proceedings and will provide you a letter outlining the findings of the formal site plan. Maggie, do you want to give a quick update on the agenda and then read the first case into record?
I sure can. Our second application today for 715 West Main Street, for the record, is being postponed due to a continuance request at informal site plan review meeting from last Tuesday. So our only application today is for site plan review 008-22 for Centerville Gardens, represented by Crown Castle Inc. The addresses are 36 Woquacket Lane, Centerville, and 1060 Falmouth Road in Hyannis, map parcel 250-023-T00. The zoning is in the RD1 and HB, as well as the GP overlay. The proposal is for the construction of a 110-foot ground level monopole style tower with co-location capacity of at least 4 wireless communication service providers. All equipment as proposed by carriers, as well as natural gas fueled power generators and shelters. Entire area will be screened by vegetation and surrounded by fencing. Existing tower at 1047 Falmouth Road is scheduled to be removed. Of note, the applicant has completed the Cape Cod Commission approval process.
Thank you, Maggie. Welcome, guys. Who is going to be doing the presentation today?
Good morning. My name is Ed Parry. I'm attorney at Brown Rudnick, representing Crown Castle. I have a couple of folks with me, Paul Peckins from Crown Castle and Scott Adams from AEG, who is our civil engineer. Happy New Year to everyone. So we were here about a year ago.
Before you get going, is someone going to be putting up sharing their screen? Just want to make them a co-host so we can.
Yep, I can do that if you.
Okay. Sure thing. Sorry to cut you off. You're all set.
Right.
I think you're good to go.
Okay. How's that?
Perfect. I can't see it yet. Oh, there you go.
So I'll just jump right back. So we had appeared here for informal site plan over the last 11 months. We have gone through the process with the Cape Cod Commission, We have received their approval via their written decision, which has since been recorded. And I will quickly go over some of the changes that were made and just to refresh everyone's recollection about the project. So what we're looking to do in this property is sort of cut up in different areas, zoning districts and fire districts. Falmouth Road, obviously, here with the commercial development of the site, we'll be using the commercial portion of the property to access the tower area. The actual site is outlined here in red. As I said, the property is located in 2 zoning districts, the HB Highway Business District towards the front, towards Falmouth, and the RD Residence D1 district toward the rear, where we propose to extend a gravel access drive along the way to the tower. The black dot here is the proposed location of the tower. None of that has changed. The location of the tower will remain the same in consultation with the Cape Cod Commission. Likewise, the height of the tower will remain the same. We did provide some additional screening and vegetation with a landscape plan, which I'll run through shortly. One issue that came up at the informal site plan review was what address to use for this particular property. As you'll see from this gray line, which runs north and south, the property is located in 2 fire districts, Hyannis to the right, Centerville to the left. So at informal site plan, there was some question about what address would be used. We did reach out. I understand that Matt Sumner, who I've worked with on other projects in the wireless sphere, has left engineering. So I think this is an issue that we do have to address. I've had some communication early in the week with Mike, and I see that he from engineering, I see that he is on the call. So I think that's the only issue that remains. We have filed our zoning application with the Zoning Board of Appeals, both for the height variance to the extent necessary, use variance, and for the amendment to the existing special permit. As everyone may recall, when this property was developed, there was a restriction placed or a condition placed in the special permit to allow for the commercial development along Falmouth Road. And that condition stated that no commercial activity would take place on the residential side. As I said, we're looking to, based on the needs of the carriers, the removal of the existing tower across the street at 1047 Falmouth, and the Telecommunications Act of 1996 for an amendment to that special permit. And as I said, that's been applied for. The tower elevation has remained the same for carriers. I will flip down and hopefully don't make anybody nauseous here. So a couple of highlights of changes that were made. I think we had always proposed a sound barrier. This is a part of the fence design for the compound. So because the residential properties are located to the north of the site, we have proposed a sound barrier for sound attenuation for the electronic equipment that's in the compound and the backup power generators, which I'll discuss momentarily. Cape Cod Commission did ask us to provide a detailed landscape plan, which you'll see here. We'd initially proposed just a string or a line of arborvitae. We've gone into much greater detail in outlining what the landscaping plan would look like. We also cut down the size of the parking and turnaround at the request of the Cape Cod Commission. Otherwise, the project remains basically the same as Maggie read. It's 110-foot 4-carrier pole. We received the approval of the Cape Cod Commission, and I think we have addressed all of the comments from the informal site plan with the exception of working out the address, which is more of a town issue. We are not proposing to have access over Waquaquet Lane. Yeah, I know. So, there's really no way to get to the tower. That's, grown. There was a temporary access drive placed there to do the commercial activity, but that has since, been overgrown. So I think from an access standpoint, the address is, clearly along Falmouth Road. And if it's a 911 call or, something where there's an emergency, something above my pay grade, I think, but, that seems like the logical address, depending on what the public safety people and engineering have to say. With that, like I said, we have Scott Adams, our engineer, on the call, and Paul Beckins from Crown Castle. If there's specific questions, that's sort of the gist of the project. We are scheduled for I will say we are scheduled for February 8th before the zoning board.
Excellent. Thank you. If you don't mind dropping your screen real quick.
Oh, sorry.
We will open it up to the board here. Let's start with Kate Maldonado, please, Planning and Development.
Good morning. I almost said afternoon. My comments, Kate Maldonado, Planning and Development, my comments are consistent with what the applicant has already presented, with the fact that they need relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, both for a variance from height restrictions as well as to modify their existing 2012 special permit with specifically conditions 3 and 5 to reference the new plans presented. And condition number 5 talks about prohibiting development and clearing of vegetation within the residential zoned portion of the property, which the applicant is seeking to do. And it sounds like the applicant has already coordinated with Anna Brigham to coordinate a meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Dave Stanton, Health.
Thank you, Jeff. David Stanton with Health. We have no comments.
Excellent. Engineering, Mike 2, please.
Morning, Ed. Good morning, team. I appreciate you guys bringing forth this project. I do, as you know, I myself am pretty new to this. When you guys were informal, this was back in January. My predecessor was here, so I'm just going to follow up on some of his comments and make sure that they make their way through your plans prior to letting you guys go here. You guys said that there's 3 natural gas driven generators on site there. However, I don't see the utility in the utility plan where you guys are bringing that service into the area here or the site. Could you guys maybe share with us what your plans are there?
Yeah, we're first of all on the number of generators. The Cape Cod Commission has expressed a preference for 1 shared generator. So you don't see anything on the plans. Typically, the carriers each install their own. We expect there will be 3. We do think that this will be a discussion with the zoning board to determine, what the preference is for generators. Obviously, 1 generator would be larger, a bit more noisy. The carrier-specific generators would be, smaller. So, I'll have Scott address where we're going to, tap into natural gas for the generators. The, condition of the Cape Cod Commission was in any event would either be propane or natural gas. Propane's a challenge because of the small size of the fence compound. So our, proposal was natural gas. But, we don't have the final, determination on whether there'll be 3 generators or 1 shared one. Scott,
So
yep,
go ahead.
So I'll ask Scott just to explain where we're proposing to tap in, I guess.
So we're currently proposing to tap it on Falmouth Road. We're actually doing utility walks now with our construction manager, with all the different utility companies to actually get them to provide the actual detail that they want us to utilize. Usually they're the ones driving the force, right? Where they're going to allow us to tap in. And then that'll be coordinated with our underlying landowner, for the easement location. But typically it's going to come down one property line or the other. if at all possible. More than likely, it's going to be a brand new service. They almost never would come off the building for another facility to the rear. So more than likely, it'll be a completely new service just to service this. It'll go to the rear of the property and likely try to follow and stay within our existing easements that we have with the underlying landowner to the maximum extent practical. But we should have that information within the next week or two, exactly where it's going to go. So obviously, the gas is going to be clearly below ground, so it won't be any sort of visual thing. And we'll try to mitigate the least amount of disruption as humanly possible for the installation of that line.
So I bring this up too because I think it is relevant in trying to figure out what the address of this site will be, right? So if all the utilities are coming in one common place, you start to see a kind of accumulation or coalescing of what maybe the address might be. Of course, it's got to be validated through thought process presented and approved by the fire department that's going to be servicing this site. But you can see where I'm getting at. If all the utilities start to flow in one way, and you can start to see how it only builds kind of the thought process of how this site might be addressed in the future.
We definitely do not want to come from a Quacket Lane because we don't want to have to clear a path of trees and existing vegetation in that area. We want that area, the intention is to keep that as it exists today. So we're definitely going to be coming from Falmouth Road for that gas line installation. And as you mentioned, I mean, typically in most communities, when we do these all over, New England, they usually choose the address on how the emergency personnel are going to physically get to the site. So it really wouldn't make sense to us to have Quacket because someone's going to show up there and they're going to just see a treed lot. They're not going to know how to actually get to the site from that address.
Understood. So I would ask that you guys have those details kind of hammered out before we take our team over to COM Fire or Hyannis Fire and figure out finalize the addressing there. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, yes.
So while we're on the generators, and you guys got to forgive me, I'm jumping in here a little bit cold, but did the Cape Cod Commission ever ask you guys to investigate sound attenuating enclosures for the generators?
They did, and they placed a condition. Yes, so two things, and I'll specifically reference the conditions. If you take a look at condition 14, there's a recommendation that there be one shared generator and that any routine testing or exercising shall be performed on weekdays and during daylight hours only. Condition 15, C15, states sound attenuating fencing as shown on the project plan shall be installed, and any generator shall be optioned to include a sound enclosure. And likewise, condition C16 provides that any backup power generator will be fueled by natural gas or propane. So if you take the whole of conditions 14, 15, and 16, it requires our fence sound attenuation, the generator enclosure, and propane / natural gas.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys will have an enclosure on top of the generator. Is the
Correct.
enclosure itself have sound attenuating properties?
It will.
It will. Okay. The last one here is that I've got a question related to the plans here. You're showing a driveway detail here and you've identified pitch. So one of my predecessor's comments was, we'd like to see how the graveled area here is pitched to understand how stormwater would be moving around the site.
Yes, sir. So we added that to sheet A6. If you could flip to A6.
Sure. Yep, I'm on it.
So you can see we added the spot grades based upon his comments that show that any potential increase in flow would be specifically directed to the existing infiltration swale that's on the site now. So basically the high side is the plan north, if you will, of the parking turnaround, and then everything is just naturally following the existing contours towards that swale. So we're not changing the direction. Everything's going where the water went today.
I see. Well, thank you for identifying that. I was looking for some contour lines to help me, but I didn't see them.
The thing is, it's so flat, there's no contours. So we had to add spot grades in just to kind of show that really it's just so flat of a site in that area. It's
I see.
difficult to show the direction.
I see. Thank you. I appreciate giving you that clarification.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, that's what I've got for the group today.
Thanks, Mike. You have a couple engineering guys here. Are you speaking for the whole group today?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's Maggie. Did we have any other comments from members of the team?
We did not.
Okay. So as far as building goes, I'll just speak to that real quick. You're gonna need building permits for each structure on site. The tower itself is gonna need to be a construction control project, so need to have a registered design professional put those documents together and see the project through. That's for building, and as far as zoning goes, I think unless anyone has any objections, I think you guys can proceed to the ZBA to get your special permit, 2012 special permit modified, and get your try to get relief for the height variance. So that's all the comments that I had today. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, just one quick question on the address. So once we get the utilities identified and put on the plan, should we submit those to Maggie and Mike or run them by Mike? I just want to know the next steps once we're ready to go so we can, work out this address issue.
Sure. I think, Mike, do you want to speak to that, or?
Yeah,
I think you'll be working with fire and.
Right. So Maggie's obviously always the gatekeeper here. So she'll intake any updated plans that might show updated utilities. At that point, our team will take the baton from Maggie, and we will engage the fire department, have discussion, and then we'll once we get agreement from the fire department, then we'll start to generate or initiate the process of adding the address to the town databases, and there's a whole process associated with that involves a bunch of communication with all different kinds of folks. So you're gonna have to bear with us, Ed, and it is a process. So first step is to getting us the information we need to get with the fire department.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, and we understand that. And, my sense is we might be in the zoning board for a little bit of time.
Understood.
And that being said, my last comment is before we do proceed to permitting, we do need to get that address ironed out so all the permits are going into the right place.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Don't see any, so I think we're good for today, and you're all set to proceed, and good luck with your project.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate all the comments and work you put into it. We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right. Good job.